Welcome to Dear Art Producer, a podcast connecting the photography and video community with art producers. Drawing on her agency experience some years ago, photography agent Heather Elder penned an open letter to art producers discussing the finer points of working with one another. This podcast takes that idea and will introduce you to different art producers, share the stories of their diverse career paths, explore what it means to stay relevant, and examine industry topics such as marketing, estimating, directing, websites, and more.
Hi, welcome to Dear Art Producer. I am your host, Heather Elder, and today we welcome the senior art producer from UpShot in Chicago, Kimber Leigh Nussbaum. Just as all of our art producers have, Kimber came to art production with a background other than advertising. She was an actress and a singer before becoming Dave Jordano's studio manager. Once she went agency side, she worked on all sorts of accounts with great people along the way. She even started an art buyers club designed to encourage friendships between her fellow buyers, aka another reason to meet for happy hour. Welcome, Kimber.
Thanks, Heather.
Yeah, I kind of missed your earlier happy hour when you were waiting for me, and I texted you, and you said, I'm in the lobby or in the bar having a drink, and I texted you back, lucky.
I mean, you got to catch me when I'm drinking, that's for sure.
We actually should have done this the other way around.
We should have done it downstairs.
Exactly. That would have made for a great podcast.
Yeah,
Thanks for meeting me today.
Thanks for having me.
In our cool space in the Virgin Hotel.
Totally cool.
It's very retro with our new retro mic.
I like it. Approved.
Okay, good.
My favorite word.
I'm glad that we like that word. We like that
I'm
word
sure you
too.
do.
We don't hear it as much anymore, but we definitely like it.
Yeah.
Well, I also have to say a lot of the podcasts that I've been doing have been remote. I started off doing them face-to-face, and then I went to doing them remote just to kind of get more going, and now I'm back on the road doing them. And I love being face-to-face with you.
Yeah, me too.
It makes a difference.
This is going to be fun. I'm really excited. I've been excited since you asked me, so thank you.
You're sweet. Absolutely. Well, why don't we start a little bit by just talking a little bit about your background. I find that the listeners like to hear that, and I also like to share it because I think what it shows is that being an art producer means that you have to draw from so many other influences in your life, and you don't just raise your hand in college and say, this is what I want to do. Something takes you along this way. So tell us a little bit about it.
So real briefly, I actually did not come from a photography background. I came from a theater background. I was always acting and singing and dancing, and came to Chicago to pursue that, and was still doing theater and music when I joined Dave Jordano's studio. I was actually just looking for a day job, a support job, right? A day job. And I actually interviewed for his rep, and they ended up hiring someone that had more experience in the business. But they said, we think our photographer might be looking for a new studio manager. So they gave me his info, and I called him, had an interview the next day. That night I had a job offer. So honestly, I knew nothing about this business. I mean, I watched commercials on TV, but never thought about it. I'm like, I was theater, I was music and performing. And
why do you think he hired you?
Because I'm awesome.
Of course.
Duh. I think because I feel like as an actor, I've always learned to just present myself well. Had a great interview. But what I came to learn when doing this, when producing, because I ended up being the in-house producer as well, is it was very much like putting on a show. You know, the casting. He didn't do a lot of casting. Yeah, he did tabletop and food. But eventually, when I got into art buying and photo shoot producing as a freelancer, it was just the same thing. It was organizing wardrobe and organizing props and, just logistics, which I'm kind of really I love figuring things out like that. And then organizing a casting, which is like putting on a show. So I took to what I was doing. Like, as far as I was concerned, it was the best day job that I could have had. It was super cool, super fun. And
who were you working with at a time that was like the golden age of, advertising, commercial photography?
So I learned a lot from Dave. He's an amazing man. He's an amazing human. I was super lucky. Yeah.
That's great.
But I didn't seek it out.
Yeah. I started as a studio manager. Well, I started in an ad agency as an account person, and then I left.
Okay.
And worked as a studio manager.
In San Francisco?
No, in Boston.
Okay.
So she was a children's photographer. I was her studio manager. I was her producer. I was her rep.
You were her best friend.
I was her best friend. I was her therapist.
Yes.
And I learned so much in that environment because you really just have to like roll up your sleeves and
wear a lot of hats.
and wear a lot of hats and always have a smile on your face. Yep. And so that was, pretty fantastic experience.
And it's fun because you're meeting people all the time and you're working on different projects, and to see like from the layout, like I still say this today, like my favorite part is seeing the layout, but then seeing what it's become in a magazine or on the computer screen, that sort of thing. So I'm sure you felt the same way.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I don't see as many layouts today as I do shot lists. So I do miss that. Yeah. And I often don't see the work that we create either. Yeah. Because it ends up in all these random kind of places or it's so far down the line when it's actually produced. But I do miss that. And that was a really, really just kind of like glamorous isn't the right word, but all my friends were working at other, like as an accountants or, studying to be a lawyer, not so sexy. Yeah. And I was doing photo shoots and castings and, and I thrived in that environment.
Totally cool. Well, I love it.
Maybe that's a good segue into talking about the state of the industry, because you and I both grew up at a time in our industry where I called it earlier, the golden age of commercial photography, where you can do a photo shoot and have a decent budget and lots of clients on set, and it was high profile and show up in Times Square or so what kind of changes have you seen, or what was like so amazing about then that isn't now? Like, let's kind of just explore that time versus now.
So working with Dave, budgets obviously were really nice. I was with him in the mid to end of it was 2000 when I went. So I wasn't there in the 80s or the 90s, like the heyday of advertising. But when I was with him, he had just gotten into digital. So there were a couple of the first shoots where we were sending out film by bicycle. And I always laugh. I'm like, I don't even know what film is. But bicycles were coming back. And so we had that. And budgets were just really nice. Yeah. And people, I think the shot lists were, we had layouts, first of all. And shot lists, we weren't really trying to cram a bunch of stuff in because we just didn't have the time. And I think with digital, just with everything happening electronically, so many of the asks are, how many can we shoot? Can we shoot this many? And how fast can we get it? And, sometimes they want usage for everything for unlimited time. And it's just different. I think things were...
And who's asking you that? Are the account people asking to add more? Is it the client through the account people?
I think clients are becoming pretty savvy to... Honestly, in my opinion, I was there in 2008. I was in an ad agency by then. And that was when the kind of the depression, what have you, kind of hit. And a lot of photographers were closing doors and people were asking for a lot, but not having the budgets to really support. So we were doing our best to do a give and take. Okay, we can do this, but we can't do that. You can offer this, but you can't, just trying to work with as best as we could the budgets and the time frames and everything and the asks. And I just kind of knew that after that, when clients were seeing what we were able to do, like pretty much hustling, right? I knew that things wouldn't go back to the way they were when I was working for Dave. Things, I think, have gotten a little bit more intense. Oh, you did that? Well, then you can do this. And, we can have it quicker, so you can do this. And
you can add video.
Yeah, exactly. And, okay, well, I want unlimited because I need it, just because. So it's a challenging thing today. And I think people are just doing their best to go with the flow.
And are you having conversations with your account people and your clients when they're adding to the shot list, or they present a shot list that's unrealistic for their budget or for their time frame? Like, what do those conversations look like for the photographers who are out there listening, feeling frustrated that they want to be a yes person, but don't have the budgets, or maybe even the other art producers who are experiencing the same thing with their clients? Any advice for like how that conversation could go? Yeah,
I think you just have to be really, I just try to approach it like, okay, you know what? We're going to present to the photographer what we want to do, what our budget is, and let's see what they can offer us. Let's see what they feel like they can reasonably do. I just do my best to try to set expectations. There are times where I kind of get pushback like, well, they did this for us, a couple years ago. And granted, a couple years ago, the budgets may have been bigger back then. We don't know. So I think everything, it's a case by case basis. Like, okay, I just try to be calm and just have an open dialogue and say, okay, you know what? Give me what you want to do, and let's go back and talk to the photographer. So we have creative calls. I insist on creative calls. Lately, the account people have been invited in too, which honestly, I think is kind of good, because then they can hear that it's not just me being the bad guy, or not the bad guy, but it's not me just, kind of pushing back. Like the photographer saying, well, let's, if we can't do this, what are our must-haves? What's our priority?
Like, what's our priority list? Yeah. That tends to be our solution sometimes, is to come back and say, absolutely, we would love to create all of this for you. Let's create a priority list, because we also don't know what's going to happen on set. How long is the client going to take to approve something? Are they going to futz with the wardrobe? Is the talent not really
Is the weather going to hold up if it's an outside? Is the weather going to hold up? Like, there's so much that is out of our control
when we're planning the shoot schedule. So our approach is to try and be as accommodating as possible.
Absolutely.
With setting realistic expectations, because they also want the content. They would want my photographer to have a decent amount of time to kind of, because they are directing out of people, right? They have to get, it's not just that one hero shot where we're spending time on. They need to kind of get something moving so that they can, get a whole library of images for them.
And I will say that once, like I remember this past shoot we just did, everyone just worked so well together and everyone was collaborative. And we said to the client, look, we don't have this time to do this, but we're going to a whole nother home to do like
more a whole shots. Company move.
Can we do it there? And so the client's like, of course, they really trusted the photographer. I even said to my team, I said, today is not my shoot anymore. It's not your shoot. It's the photographer's, it's his producer or her producer, that sort of thing. So we just have to go with the flow and everybody wants to everyone wants to give the world. Right now, let's just be realistic as to what we can give so that we don't go over budget, so that we get as much as of the priority shots that you want. So.
And what does a successful shoot look like?
On time and at or under budget. And everyone getting along and having fun,
kind of like
being well fed.
Well fed is
I'm a Jewish mother in training. Let's just face it. Yeah, just everyone getting along. A client walking away happy. Like I always, checking with the account person. What's the client feeling and thinking? And they're like, if they're happy, then I'm happy. The client, if the photographer's happy, if everyone's happy, I'm happy, because then things are just naturally flowing and good stuff comes out of good energy.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so where in your mind does the rep fit into all of this in terms of a happy shoot?
Well, I think the rep just being respectful of the whole, not pushing back on me because the budget is this, or because we're asking for more usage than you'd like to, not you, but a rep would like to give, that sort of thing. Just being in collaboration with all of us and realizing that we as producers we're just trying to make everyone happy, just trying to make the client happy. I think a lot of projects are coming to us on a project basis versus agency of record. And I think there's just a lot of competition for agencies to get projects in. So, we want to make the clients happy so they come back to us. And then if they come back to us, then we can come back to you and your shooters and that sort of thing. So,
I had an interesting conversation with a photographer today about the importance. He's like, I've been listening to your podcasts. And,
right.
The thing that I keep coming away with is relationships and how important
everything.
The relationships are.
Yep.
And I think you just touched on one of the reasons why they are so important, right? I explained to him that they are important because there's so many good photographers out there. It's a given for you, right?
Yeah.
You have so much to choose from and you're not worried. Everyone is technically capable. They are able to do their job. But where the relationship comes into play is it is a lot. They aren't agency of records. They are project based. Like you need to do a good job. Not that nobody was trying to do a good job before, but there's so much pressure. So for you to go to someone that you know already, or you have a relationship with, or you trust, whether it be a rep or whether it be a photographer, I'm wondering and asking, is it a little bit harder nowadays to try somebody brand new?
Yes and no. I feel like relationships in my mind are everything, and trust is everything. And if we've got a lot to shoot in a small amount of time, I'm going to go to the people that I trust aren't going to fight me and that sort of thing. But a lot of the newbies just want a foot in the door. Mm-hmm. And if we can set them up with a really strong producer, then my worries are alleviated. I actually have given a couple people their first shot in the world. So
that's nice.
That was cool. Yeah. I'm not going to take all this credit for it, but the fact that he's like, you were my first official PO giver. So that's really cool to know that you really help somebody kind of get their foot in the door and get their first tears to go on their website or in their book. What's also a little challenging is, and I haven't been doing a lot of social yet. I mainly come in because I'm still a freelancer. And right now I'm permalance, but I'm usually brought in just to work on still. And I think we use stuff for social, but that's not what
it's not your primary focus.
So where was I going with that? Oh, so because a lot of that is social, or a lot of that is just digital, I think people can be a little bit more forgiving, with photography. And I haven't worked with a lot of influencers and their iPhones, and I'm not really sure how much of that is really true. But I like giving new people,
Well, and how do people get your attention?
I get a lot of emails. I don't get a lot of physical promos anymore, which is actually okay because I don't want a lot of stuff.
Right.
And I will get a promo in, an email. I will get physical promos, but I see things, and if there's a really engaging picture, I honestly, and I don't know how to define this for people, but if I see something that honestly I've never seen before, like a storyline or an image, then that will really catch my attention. I remember somebody coming in showing me their book, and I'm like, I'm telling you, I'm so impressed with you because I've never seen any of this before, And
you see so much.
And I see a lot, And I mean, I can't tell you what it was. This was a couple of years ago, but I can't tell you what it is that I saw or I can't tell them what to do because it's what I saw. It's what they brought. And so when you see cool, interesting, innovative, unique storylines or images, then that will really bring my attention. There are some things where I have to wonder what they were thinking with the scent. And I'm sure you know exactly what I'm saying.
I do.
I get a lot of, sometimes I'll get the promos where you can fold out and probably hang up, but nobody has offices anymore. Right. So a small postcard that I can hang up a postcard in my little cubby.
Yeah.
I have this kind of document. If I see something I really love, I'll just document them. And I tabbed the genres.
Okay.
So that I can easily go and refer and not have to keep all the stuff because I don't want it.
No, I know. We talk about this on the podcast a lot. What is your organization? You don't have that intern to file away your direct mail pieces in your massive, file cabinet anymore. A lot of people use bookmarks or they have a Word doc or they have their own little digital online organization for how they, organize it by location and by, category.
Website and category,
yeah. So that's interesting. Photographers ask me all the time about Instagram. And do you, one, use it? Do you use it to find photographers? Do you follow photographers that you like? So are you interested in seeing theirs? Like, so there's a lot of components to how you might use Instagram. Do you use it?
Not for professional. I have a couple of photographers that are super duper unique in my mind, or images are really appealing, and I have followed them. If I see something that I like, I'll like it. If somebody follows me, I'll follow back. I don't really go there. I do a lot of online searching. I use Workbook a lot. I use Lookbook a lot. I go to people that I know, like Heather Elder represents, you know, like I kind of start there first. There's an amazing forum on Facebook called Art Producers and Photo Editors, and I love that group. Everyone's always suggesting people, and so that's kind of one of my first stops is I go in there and I type in, you know, some person that's like what I'm looking for or a genre, and I have found amazing.
So people will respond and say, check out this person, check out this person. It's
an amazing little Facebook community. I love those people.
That's great. Back to Instagram for a second, just because people have asked me to ask these specific questions. If a photographer went to follow you and you didn't really know them, would you accept their follow? Like, some of them are like, I want to do that, but it seems kind of creepy because they don't know me, and should I do that? And
they've done it.
They've done it. Most,
I think it's just kind of a case-by-case basis, because a lot of stuff that I want to use Facebook for or Instagram for is my own stuff.
Right.
My own personal whatever, you know. I think it just kind of depends.
Yeah. Well, I think it goes back to
that
relationship.
Or I'll like something so that I can see it in my lineup, but I may not necessarily follow them.
Right.
I don't want to sound like an a-hole, but
no, I think
authentically, I just don't.
I think that's really smart.
Yeah.
And I also feel like what you said about the Art Buyers Forum is really important. You know, none of us have access to that. I don't, as a rep, have access to that.
Yeah.
The photographers don't have access to that. So it's very much a safe space for you all to share information, not just about relevant artists, but also, I'm guessing, to share information. Have you ever worked with so-and-so?
I will tell you that those questions have come up, but everyone's always respectful, like, please PM me.
Okay.
So there's never been,
it's not like a public
bashing.
Yelp.
No, exactly. We're not giving 5 stars up.
But still, regardless, you have that ability. That's why I'm going back to the relationship. You have a network of people that you can call upon in a way that you never used to be able to, so that you can get the insider information, good and bad. I'm not saying it's like, but
it's all very private. All very,
No, I think that's
respectful.
I think that's fantastic, and I think a lot of photographers don't know that exists or understand the power of it.
Yeah.
So again, when we were talking about the relationships and how important it is for, you know, you to have a relationship with a rep or you to have a relationship with a photographer, it goes to that, because in that kind of forum, you might speak highly of that.
Do you guys have one too?
We do. Yes, we do. But it's, you know, it was really
I'll show you mine if you show me yours.
Exactly. It was really hot for a long time. And then I think the same sort of people kept replying, and then it just kind of fizzled off.
Yeah.
So it would be nice if it kind of came back. Do you know a Photopolitic? So they have a little bit of a forum as well, but it's not a private forum. It's like questions are asked to the entire community, and then everybody can respond. But that's kind of the closest thing to it. So that's interesting. Well, I'm glad that's still alive and well.
I had my Gmail address on my Facebook, on my LinkedIn page. For a long time, it was public, and I was getting a lot of people emailing me through there, which was totally fine. And then I started getting a lot of Nigerian princes.
Oh, yeah,
so I had to take it off, because I was like, how else are they getting my email? So I need to figure out how to be more accessible to these guys, to these people.
Maybe it's a separate email address that.
Well, that's what my Gmail account was.
Oh, I
but now I need
your
a
Gmail was your, like,
maybe
personal.
I need like art producer Kimber or something.
Right.
I think that's a great idea. So,
that's interesting. What about LinkedIn?
I love LinkedIn.
I do too. I really enjoy what people post on LinkedIn. I hope that, it'll all change, I'm sure. But I find it really relevant. And I find it a really easy way to kind of understand where someone came from and their background and their career path, and which I'm really into. And I don't know, I think it's been it's developed into a nice community. I
agree with you, because I think it's cool to find out people like me and you that did not come from a photography background, and to see what their path has been and how they are.
And you're putting it out there publicly that this is my work world. Yeah. So you're inviting people into your work world. Yeah. As opposed to Facebook or Instagram might not be a work thing for you.
It's definitely not.
So when work people kind of show up in it, and I publish a post on Facebook, work stuff all the time. So I'm interrupting your personal space. So, you could choose to unfollow me or choose to not, whatever. But
I would never do that.
I know, but what I'm saying in general is but at least in LinkedIn,
it's the place to do it.
It's the place to
totally
do it.
Totally agree, yeah.
And
I prefer to that. Like when I get work emails through my Facebook Messenger, I don't care for that so much.
I cannot deal with Facebook Messenger. People message me there all the time, and then they'll send me another message saying, "Oh, did you get my message?" And I'm like, "No," because I don't check Facebook Messenger. It takes me to another app, and it's like, here's my email address. Please just email me. Or
I say that all the time. Just email me.
I know, it's much easier, and then it kind of gets into my to-do list of stuff. So interesting. Well, let's talk a little bit about getting jobs approved.
Yeah.
We were joking that that's our favorite word. We like that a lot, but they're fewer and farther between.
Yes.
What is it like on, especially as a freelancer? I guess you've seen lots of different agencies and different processes. Take us through what getting a job approved looks like.
Yeah. A lot of times we're going through third-party consultants. So that's a big part of it, getting their approval, sometimes having to collaborate with them to not make cuts further because in my mind, there's no other cuts to be made.
Right.
And I feel like, I really try to come to everything with a real fresh brain, non-judgmental, but, just everyone, just being real fresh and,
so you have to present 3 legitimate options that you would be very happy with no matter who chose them.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we have to get their approval first, and then it comes back, and then it's shared with the client. Every place has been kind of different. There's one agency that I was with that was very formal. We had a pre-bid meeting, and then I bid with them, and then we did a word meeting, etc. I've also worked with agencies where I get everything in, like the client knows who we're bidding with. I get everything in, and then I just meet with a production consultant on my own. So every place is a little different. Every process is a little different. And you just try to work with them to get the best options possible. Hopefully you haven't really. I really try hard to make every estimate not even but just fair.
Right.
So that when it comes down to it, it's about the art and the photography.
Thank you.
I do my best. That's always been my approach. In fact, somebody asked me, the consultant asked me today, she's like, so are you looking at so-and-so who was the lowest limit, or is it about the art? Like the production consultant asked me this. I wrote her back, I said, it's always about the art, baby.
Yeah.
I don't want it to ever be about money. And I said to some illustrators we've been working with, and that I was coming to them and asking, this is the specs of the job. What would you like what is your idea of a fair compensation? And they came back to me and they gave me their options, and they said, do you think that's too high? And I can't really comment on it.
Right.
All I say is, tell me what you think you'd like to receive. If it's within our budget, I'll go ahead and just present it to the cost consultant and the client. And then if the client really wants you and they feel you're too expensive, I'll always come back to you and say, hey, can we look at you coming down? Or, hey, can we make adjustments? I try my damnedest to never, ever, ever make it about money.
Right.
And always make it about the
Are
art.
you able to say, okay, Joe Smith or Jane Smith, you are way higher than everyone else?
I don't say it like that, but I say
In a nicer
feels a little
way.
high.
Right.
Yeah. Is there anything we can, talk about? So yeah.
So before it would go to your cost consultant or your production consultant or your team or something, you could help. Because, a lot of times, like, I'll get jobs and we have no idea what your budget is. And you won't know what your budget is either sometimes until you present the number.
Yeah.
But as a comparison, we may be higher because we're thinking about the production, and I'm not talking just fees, but we might be thinking about the approach way differently, that we could be off. And I would love the opportunity, I love when I get the opportunity to kind of revisit what we're doing before we get presented.
Yeah. There have been times where I knew that photographer X wasn't even in the running, and I probably haven't gone back to them because I don't want to spin their wheels.
Right.
I knew that creative wanted somebody, and I knew the client was probably going to pick that person.
Right.
Maybe because they had worked with them in the past or what have you. I'm just not going to spin their wheels.
Yeah,
so
that's a good thing too.
Yeah.
What about sharing who's bidding against
I
each
never do
other?
that I never do that while we're bidding.
Mm-hmm.
But afterwards, if they say, once it's been awarded, if somebody asks me who were they bidding against, I will share it then.
Yeah, that's great.
I just feel like nobody needs to know at that point, and I don't want people, not that they probably would, but I don't want people calling each other up and, who knows, I'm sure they wouldn't, but it's all my own little stories that I tell myself.
Yeah.
But after somebody's been awarded, I will. Why not? At that
agree.
point, who cares?
For a very long time, I was always really curious who we were bidding because I'd want to know who we were on the table next to. And mostly it was because when you would call in books years ago, we would have a conversation and I would know what you would tell me, all the books you were calling in. And that's just kind of how it was. And I feel like once that went away, all of that.
Why do you think it went away?
I think it got competitive.
Yeah.
I think
it's competitive out there.
It got really competitive. And then I think art producers started having a hard time when they would tell people and they'd have to have an earful from someone else. And so I think that kind of went away. And I feel like when that went away, all that information, that really valuable marketing information for me went away.
Yeah.
So for a long time, I continued to try and ask and eventually realized this isn't doing anyone any good. Because I go back and I tell my photographers and they get inside their own head.
Yeah.
I have to trust you that you're going to present the even people. And if we're not, you're going to speak up. And I have been afterwards saying, if you can share who got it, that or who we were up against, that would be really helpful information. A lot of people don't return our emails at that point and tell us. I think it's because they've moved on and they're busy and whatever. It's fine. But I am in agreement that
afterwards it's cool.
Afterwards is a relevant time to know.
I would want to know if I were a photographer or a rep. I get that. And I also get after when I've booked somebody, I don't call, but I will email people and say, just want to let you know, it's been booked. Thank you, thanking them for their time. You guys put so much time in this and your hearts and your souls and blood and sweat and tears. I get it. I was there as a studio producer. So I'll always email and say, thank you so much. Just so you know, I can release you, blah, blah, blah. I won't call people because I used to call and I would get an earful and I'm sensitive too, and it made me feel bad. Yeah. So I was like, don't make this about you. Just make it business and just email. Some info is better than no info.
I agree. And I have always said, which I haven't said in a while on this podcast, is this idea of just give me one more sentence. A lot of times we work really hard on the treatments and the bids and you're putting in just as much time. I'm not saying we're the only ones doing it, but, and sometimes I won't hear. And sometimes I'll hear and be like, oh yeah, sorry, we awarded that last week. Sorry, I didn't get back to you. Or, oh, thank you for your time, but you didn't get the job. And the photographer is left and the team actually is left with okay, that's fine. We didn't get the job, but maybe who did or what direction or what happened in the meeting. And I know you can't share all of that information, but I think a photographer, especially nowadays, given the amount of time and energy and effort and late nights, airplane hours before their kids wake up, weekend hours, is put after shoots, like, put into these treatments and these bids. Just understanding a little bit about, it was really close.
Yeah.
The client wanted these images because they were a little bit lighter in feel, or your location. This person had the exact location in their book, or, something that they can kind of be like, oh,
I don't think I offer that, but if somebody comes back and says, could you give me more context, I will offer whatever I can. Oh, and usually it's just, they just felt like this was a better choice.
Well, that's so funny because I feel like that sometimes too. Like, we're asking for the more information, and sometimes the more information is just the energy of the room.
Sometimes I just don't know. Sometimes I'm not even in the room.
Right.
The account people come back to me, or they'll email me and they're like, they want to go with so-and-so. Like, honestly, I think the account people do such a great job with like really keeping hours clean and succinct, that there are certain things I'm not invited to just to keep my hours down.
Yeah.
Because I'm usually execution versus a retainer, especially as a freelancer, I imagine.
So
does that make sense?
It does. But what is that? What's the...
Sometimes this is different. I'm on a different budget.
Oh, I get it. So you don't even always get all the information.
I always get the information, but I'm not always in the room.
I understand.
Because they're like, well, we're not going to bring her in for an hour.
Right.
Here, if we can just relay the info,
right,
better her hours spent towards
doing something else, on this new project or something else. Yeah. Oh, I get it. That makes sense.
Or maybe even like less is more in the room,
right? Yeah, I know.
Or maybe I talk too much. I don't know.
No, I would agree.
I'm pretty sure it's just like we just need to be real succinct on hours. So,
yeah, I think
budgets are huge. I mean, budgets aren't huge, so budgeting is
a big issue.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's talk. We're almost kind of winding down.
No, this is so much fun.
I know. I try not to keep them much longer than 45 minutes.
It's all good.
I think people they'll lose interest. Write me if you want them longer, everyone. What about motion? Do you do a lot of motion? Are you mostly print? Does your agency?
My agency does a little motion video. There's a motion producer that's in. I've expressed interest. In the past, I've done a little bit of motion to, I feel like I'm usually kind of brought in as a freelancer. I've been freelance for like 6 years now. I'm usually brought in to cover maternity leave or because X art buyer's super busy.
Right.
I just haven't, and I usually, when I come in, I'm like busy, focused on print, or digital, or, still. So I haven't had that opportunity. I would love that opportunity.
Right.
But I don't think an agency is going to bring me in so I can shadow somebody. So somewhere that's going to happen. Right? Somewhere down the line, I'll get that opportunity. Maybe I'll get to get it at UpShot. I don't know. We'll see.
So you mentioned in this last answer about being a freelancer, and so much of our industry has gone to this kind of gig economy.
Yeah.
What do you do as a freelancer to stay in touch with people, stay relevant, make sure you're on people's consideration lists?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Well, I send my own promos to people through Facebook. No, just kidding. I hustle. Like when I got into freelance because I was laid off, which is a rite of passage for everybody should be laid off exactly once. Everyone should be laid off. And I decided I was going to go freelance and I was going to rock it. And at that time I had the Art Buyers Club kind of already in motion.
I love that you did that. That's my chair.
Oh, I thought it was a dog.
No.
Like, what is that? So I just started freelancing and I hustled. I called every person in the Art Buyers Club. I contacted, all the reps that I knew, let them know. I hustled. Just anything that you guys would do or your photographers might do or a new photographer in the business, I hustled. And just got my name out there and just did whatever it took. I did photo producing for a little bit. I decided I'm probably a better agency producer, but just whatever it took. I sent out my own little promos, like this is the last project I worked on. Super proud of it.
Well, I think just whatever back to that relationship building.
It's all about relationships.
Putting yourself out there in a way that people can engage with you, connect with you, remember you. And I think that's really important for someone like me as a rep, for someone like you as a freelancer, for a photographer or a director. We can't all, sit behind our email anymore.
Especially now, because everyone's out there fighting for the next job, the next gig.
And they are fewer and farther between.
Yeah.
For lots of reasons.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you weren't a freelance art producer or an actress, we're going to take, or singer, we're going to take those off the table because those are the easy answers. What would you do?
Is independently wealthy an option?
Oh, I love that answer, but no, you have to do something.
I don't know. Sometimes if I've had a really bad day, and I feel like I've been picking up a lot of shit. Can I say that?
Yes, you absolutely
I'm like, I may as well just be a dog walker. Right. I'm picking up shit all day anyway. I may as well pick up shit for people. Like
you'd be outside, you'd be with dogs. Yeah. Like, wouldn't that be great?
I don't think that's the answer, but that's a great question.
Mm-hmm. I think about
Let's
it a lot.
Let's just say it for now.
Yeah.
Dog walker.
Dog walker. I love it.
Pet sitter.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think what also is good about that job, which that job represents a lot of other types of jobs too, is that there's a beginning and an end, right? I feel like in our world, there's no beginning or end. You might begin a job and then it gets produced and that thing's over, but you're just like, you're churning through so many different things.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like why I like washing the dishes at the end of the night. Like I'll clear the table, I'll wash the dishes because I cleared the table, I washed the dishes, they're in the dishwasher, I've turned it on.
Come on over to my house. Right? You can wash my dishes.
I'm finished.
Yeah.
And I love
it's a
that.
Sense of completion.
A sense of completion.
Interesting. Okay.
And I think that we don't always get that in our job. Again, we do because we're producing a job, but our job is so much bigger than that. So, and your to-do list, I mean, sometimes I add things onto my to-do list just so I can cross them off and I can have a feeling of accomplishment because it never goes away.
I will tell you something else that I've always considered, which was part of the reason I did the Art Buyers Club, because I always thought of myself as a connector, like a life connector. Oh, you need this? You should talk to this person. Right? I love that. But could never figure out how to be a life connector. What do you do? Like, oh, you need to do this, talk to this person. $100, please. Like, how do you
monetize that?
Right? So I guess if I could find a way to be what somebody titled for me a life concierge.
I love it.
I'd love that.
I love that.
Because I love that. Yeah, I love doing that. I love connecting people.
Yep.
I've always considered myself a connector.
Which
I think is one of the reasons I love being in production, because like in the Art Buyers Forum, oh, you need someone like Andy Anderson? Oh, you should check out these websites, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Hello, Andy Anderson. But you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And it feels really good to like know that maybe you helped somebody or connected somebody or
absolutely
got someone a job.
Well, you're in the right business then.
Yeah. Thanks.
So this is awesome. This was so fantastic. Thank you.
This was fun.
So much.
Thank you.
That we're right at 43 minutes. We are good at this.
Nice. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely. I welcome you anytime.
Thank you, Heather.
Thanks for listening. In an industry where the rules are always changing, it's helpful to hear from those on the front line. Heather Elder is the visionary behind notesfromarepsjournal.com. Visit her website for industry updates, stunning photography and video, and the artist behind the work.